Hey.
All right, here we go, folks. We are ready. I'm Dr. Dennis Becker, and this is Robin Golinski. If you can see her, terrific. If you're just listening, she's sitting you and join each other to talk about the exciting topic of manipulation. Isn't that exciting? Oh boy.
It's always exciting.
Oh,
Always and
we don't take
forever.
it jokingly, though. However, but if you don't
No.
joke a little bit about it, it'll drive you crazy. A little bit deeper than usual. Normally, in this world that we've been doing, we've been talking about the tactics that manipulate yourself as the manipulation is happening. It's related, but it's a little bit deeper than that. So I'm going to pass it over.
Okay. First of all, I have to this information not to your liking, but you can consider like it. But I assure you, target. I would just ask that you consider reflecting on what we are saying in this episode. All right, and so what is that? Think can either help you be compliant, or how you can take control of your brain, your mind, your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and thwart that manipulation, prevent that manipulation. Understand, believe, accept, pick your word, that you are in control of your emotions. Your emotions feel a certain way. You choose to feel a certain way. Now, that is, some people are going to have a hard time. And I think, Dennis, I will even say a harder time now than they would have had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because this idea of personally responsible, it's everyone wants to be a victim and everyone wants to blame. It seems to be reinforced on social media, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. Don't you worry. I will suggest, however, that if you can recognize and accept that you actually choose your emotions. Now, it may not feel like you're choosing them because of the rapid way in which they manifest, the velocity and speed at which they can happen, even with a look from someone. It seems like no time passes. And I think that is how the illusion that you aren't making a conscious choice, and you may not be making a conscious choice, but you are making a choice. So if you can accept or consider or ponder that maybe you are making a choice, I assure you that that will help you go on a path to being personally more powerful. So let me pause there because I said a lot already.
Yeah, but you said a lot of really important things, and some of those things, as you say, are going to be because people don't always believe that they're in charge of everything. Like, I'm in charge of this and that and that. But then all of a sudden you have an emotional reaction to something. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that. Oh, I shouldn't have got so upset. Too late. You already did. What happened?
How am I supposed to feel? Well,
yeah.
Let's get, I think, supposed to feel puts you in the camp of helplessness. And this is the paradigm shift that's necessary.
It's happening to me saying something that causes me, the language you always word makes or words. You are giving the power to someone else. You are saying that I don't have a choice. You make me feel this way. What Robin and I are talking about today is that's not.
It's not true. And I will believe that the reason why it's so difficult for someone to take responsibility for their actions, but thoughts and emotions, is that then you have to be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
You are responsible. You are accountable.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in fashion right now either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, responsibility is it's a tough word to swallow sometimes, particularly when it's something that you really don't like and you really don't believe in. Even sometimes on the outside, you think you don't believe in it. But let's get back to this idea of how language can trigger you. There's a different word, trigger. What gets you to think that someone else is making you feel that way? Well, certainly you begin to believe that in yourself because of certain language that gets used. Listen, good manipulators know the right words, really the right language to use. And just one word, they know, one word can trigger you. I'm going to change it to trigger for a minute. One word. It doesn't have to be a word. It could be a look. You know that. Nonverbal behavior communicates.
Because I'm glad you brought that up. It somewhat takes it out of the personal choice realm, but not if you think about it in the sense of you have patterns. The manipulator identifies your pattern, feel fat. They know every time you talk to your mother, you end up crying. They know that, whatever. They know all your little patterns. All of them. Because they only care about they manipulate the choice is your choice. It's so chain of events. So the trigger, they know that the trigger, pull the trigger and the bullet goes out, and it goes out in one way every time, rips through everything, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to tell you, no, yes, that's true, but who's pulling the trigger, them or you? Well, they can pull a trigger, but you have to give them the bullet, and you do that by giving them your emotions instead of saying, I don't think so. I'm going to choose something different.
Well, just think of it this way, folks. There have been times, perhaps for each of you, I know it has been for me, and I think for most people, there are times when your manipulator is not around, nowhere near you. You're perfectly alone. You're in a safe environment or whatever. But if you start to think about something, could be anything, could be a type of food, it could be a person, it could be a behavior, it could be a location, it could be music. You hear something, you think something, and that becomes the trigger to start you down the path of feeling, okay? So it's not always just your manipulator, the person. Other things can trigger. So now how does that happen? If it's not the manipulator, how does that happen?
Well, the manipulator is the content. The media is always manipulating.
That's right.
Always.
That becomes the manipulator.
Right.
Who's allowing that? That's what we're talking about today. How does that happen? Whether it's a person, place, or thing, or food, or smell, or whatever.
Can't happen without your compliance.
Yeah. Somehow your thought pattern. Now, There's that word pattern again. Somehow your thought pattern, the way you think about things, can easily trigger the way you behave and react to things. So what Robin and I are talking about is that thought pattern in yourself that you, something I need to be sad about, and you be sad. That's your compliance that we're talking about, right, Robin?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about, so there's a trigger and then there's a chain of events, right? And everybody has the chain of events, and typically there's a pattern. And typically we go around thinking these things are just happening to us. They're just happening. We don't have any control over them. We can't change them. What do you expect me to feel when he says that? What do you expect me to do when she acts like that? You know, we have this absolving of ourselves as that chain of events happens over and over again. It develops an even faster, even more strong, even deeper rut, however you want to think of the metaphor, track in your brain. And it gets even harder. And when you are around people, personalities that you spend most of your time with, and or social media apps that the algorithms are made to reinforce, even reinforce this, whatever it is, it gets even harder. So it's more than just, I mean, I said it was simple. It's not easy at all. But the simple concept of accepting the idea that every emotion I have, I'm choosing. So taking control of your free will back. I have free will. I can choose to not be sad. I can choose to not be angry. Oops, sorry. You absolutely can do that. But then it's how do I change enough if I'm surrounded and marinating in this environment where everybody around me is reinforcing my pattern, my old pattern, because they get a payoff from it, they get something, or I'm passively taking in this social media on my phone that's algorithmically programmed to keep my attention and make me feel a certain way. And if I watch this video, then it takes me to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And how can I do that? So Dennis has some real, this very atrophied muscle in all of us, the muscle of free will and deciding how we're going to feel and controlling what we're going to think.
And remember, this is, as we're describing it, obviously related to this nasty thing called manipulation that we're working with all these episodes. That patterns develop on good things, positive things. You like vanilla ice cream? Okay. You develop a pattern. You like swimming in the lake better than the ocean? Okay. You develop it. You have a like it. You have a pattern. There are all kinds of things that human beings develop patterns in, around, and about. And some of them can be very joyous and very pleasurable. So we're not just talking about negative things. There are all kinds of patterns. How do you control any of them?
Let's talk about how you have some good techniques.
Yes, there's one in particular. There's one in particular. How do you control these things? All right, there is one in particular, one technique that I would like to share with you that you heard words about. You go, how the heck does that help? What does that do? What is it anyway? I want to suggest that what we're trying to help you do is to control your decision-making within your pattern, maybe break the pattern, maybe not allow it to develop. How do you control your mind so that these things don't develop and you become the target of easy manipulation? All right. in a broad sense, this is going to sound awful, and I know it's going to sound very like a carnival. We're talking about mind control. I don't mean that in the woo-woo sense of, ooh, I'm going to make you do stuff. And no, how do you control your own mind? This is what I want to give you a technique for. The technique that I'm going to suggest to you is called, and you've heard this word before, mindfulness. Now, let's be clear. Mindfulness is not meditation. Don't confuse these two things. They both have to do with the mind and all of that. They are different. Meditation, when you meditate, you make the attempts to free your mind from everything and to be blank and to allow yourself to go into a world, into a state where you're not thinking about anything. You're just sort of enjoying whatever's happening to you. That's meditation. Now, mindfulness wants you to think, but wants you to think about one thing only. We're asking you to be using your mind to focus on one thing only. So, for example, washing your hands. You wash your hands, think about the temperature of the water, the kind of soap, what you do. Concentrate only on that. If you're eating food, what does it taste like? Are you chewing it?
I'm only chiming in because I know there's others like me out there that may be rolling their eyes and saying, okay, how is that going to help me be my manipulator? So I'm going to check. I want to connect those talking about is in baby steps, in small ways, taking seconds here or 60 seconds there. That is strengthening the muscle of control over your mind. And everything is happening to you. It's all just happening to you. Life is just happening to you, and you're just a victim. And it's just everything's. I think about this children's book my kids had, Alexander's Terribly Awful, No Good, Very Bad Day. It's all just happening to you.
Yeah.
You're always going to be kicked by life.
Yeah. But
that's why not?
The whole point of mindfulness is, as Robin said, in a very simple, easy, short, because it's hard to do. You can't do it for a long time. Short period of time, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute's a long time. For a short period of time, can you compel your mind, the way you think, to focus on one thing only? Now, it might be washing your hands or chewing some food or whatever it is. Can you do it? It's not easy. It's easy
to
direct
do it, and can you grow it and stretch it?
And then what do you do with it? So if you can do it.
It sounds really simple, but I just want to underscore what you're saying, Dennis, because you taught this to me and I didn't like it one bit. Do you remember you used to tell me I would walk fast, super fast everywhere? And you said, try just walking as slowly as you can to the corner. And I completely thought it was stupid and annoyed and frustrated. So this is why I know there's loads of resistance around this. I totally get it. But I will tell you that it's in these very basic and what seem very simple things that you will surprise yourself about yourself. Your inability to do that sounds like a very easy thing to do, right? Walk as slowly as you can to the corner. Why couldn't I do it then if it's so easy?
A pattern. You had a pattern of behavior. You were trying to break that pattern, form a new one. Not easy.
Very, very difficult to do as an adult. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But it's possible. And target of a manipulator. If you want to be in control of your thoughts.
When you're being manipulated, what are you going to do? Stop and say, what's one thing I can focus on. You're trying to pay attention to what's happening, what's going. Mindfulness, how does that work? It is so that you gain control over the way the pattern is triggered. Okay, so for example, pattern of walking.
That's why they do fire drills, right? They don't actually burn a real fire and do a fire drill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is the fire drill. You're getting ready for the hard times by doing it in the easy.
Right.
Well, it's still hard. Manipulator coming at you with tactic after tactic after tactic.
So in those times, that's where we want to help you. In those times, if you have been able in other times, in practice times, to be able to control 15 seconds, do this in my mind, do that. Take simple things. The more of those simple things that you can do and can control, in the moment you're getting manipulated, your mind, believe now, because you're not doing it yet. But when you learn to control your mind, when that controlled pattern of feeling or you won't do it. You won't go into mindfulness necessarily, but in that moment, you will be able to control your mind to the point where you say, what was the technique I learned for control? It's public humiliation or it's blaming, whatever the tactic is. What's the technique I learned? That's what will come to you. Not washing your hands, but that, because you have trained your mind to go there.
There's a couple of things about that. One is you want to stay in neutral. So to choose an emotion that's going to give you power and strength with the manipulator, it's neutrality, maintaining neutral. And they will escalate their tactics and make it very, very difficult. So that's why practice and practice and practice is helpful. Yep. The other thing I will say is, if you accept what we're saying and decide that you're going to start to practice control over your thoughts and then translate that to control over your emotions and being in control so that you're not being controlled. If you don't change your environment of who you're spending time with, so if you don't change anything else and you just try to change that, it's going to be like a teaspoon in a tsunami, because all the people around you that you spend time with are, when you change, they don't like it at all. Not because you're not changing for the better, because they don't like change. Because if you change and you're in a relationship with me, that means I have to change too. So I just have that caveat that I want to put out there, because you really have to change who you're hanging around. You have to really do a good, strong inventory. And we're going to do another episode about envy, because you have frenemies amongst you. You have people who seem like a confidant, a reliable friend, and they're harboring deep envy or jealousy of you. And so we're going to talk a bit about that, because that's a hidden thing. But anyway, I just want to mention that I didn't really have to interview, and that's a harder one to uncover, right? Because they don't always reveal their dark envy, and that
episode. So stay tuned in with us when we get to that episode. It won't be far away.
Yeah.
But this one particular, we want to be sure that you've under a specific tactic or technique to work on. This is working on yourself, on your mind, on your ability, emotions. Tough. Where did you ever learn to like certain things ingrained in all of us? Why did Robin walk fast all the time? Well, she didn't just pick that up. That was ingrained in her for a long, long time. So to make that change was not easy. But she did it for purposes of, and she had her own personal reasons. She wanted to do it. And she did it to learn how to control. We've all had to do those sort of things. Some of them are easier than others. This one is tough. We know it's tough. But we also know how tough it is to avoid being manipulated. These people are everywhere. And they'll do one thing after another after another. And to the extent that you can control the way they, watch the language, make you feel, you can control that, it's going to be to your benefit. They will not be able to control you the same way. And once they can't control you the same way, you know what they do. They go away. Why? Why? Because you,
Or they escalate and then
or
they go
they'll escalate first and then they'll go away. But if you
Sometimes.
continue to show that level of awareness that you have about what they're doing, maybe you can't completely fight it off, but all you have to do is show that I know I'm onto you now, pal. Okay, yeah, all right, okay, fine, but I get you. The more you do that, the less they're going to want to do it. They want to work with somebody who's easier. They're not going to work
I
with
want to
people
give
too hard.
another warning that I just thought of before we wrap up here, which is there's a lot of people out there doing TikToks and Instagrams about manipulation. And I've dabbled in them. I haven't spent a ton of time with them, but they're very different than us in that what I've seen in the books and the social media is that they have a lot of compassion for the victim, right? They'll use the word victim. We don't use the word victim. We use the word target. And they'll a lot of the people in the forums will go on and on about what he said and what she did. And then everybody jumps in and says, "Oh, you poor thing. I'm so sorry for you." And nobody is there giving tough love. So it's reinforcing the weakness, the helplessness in the person. We're never going to roll like that. We don't roll like that. So if you're someone who really wants to just lick your wounds and feel sorry for yourself and have everybody just give you tons of attention for the sad, tragic story of how you were manipulated, that isn't going to happen with Dennis and I. We want to empower you and strengthen you.
And that's a kind of tough love, believe it or not.
It is. And it's what's going to be a game changer, because once you know it, you can't unknow it. And once you have it, no one can ever take it from you.
Yeah.
So it's not for everyone's not ready for that, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody is at that stage. Not everybody believes that they have innate power and free will. Not everybody believes that. And it's unfortunate.
And in the meantime, while you're learning that you have it, you really have it, and you gain control of it, while you're learning that, that's why we have the book and these other tactics and techniques that we're giving you to work with whatever the tactic is that's being used on you at the moment. That's why we gave those to you. But this, what we talked about today, is going a little bit deeper. It's taking a little bit of a different angle than just an outright technique. You know, when we teach you the other techniques, there are 24 of them we've taught you. We give you the words, we give you the tone, the speed of speaking, the facial expression. We do all of that, which is good. And you need that. And we're glad to have the ability to give that to you. What we're talking about today is a different angle. It's approaching that sense of control from a different perspective, a very personal
and yes,
or a very
there are
intimate
bad
one.
things that happen when you stay in a long-term relationship with a manipulator. Sometimes you end up dead on Dateline because but it all starts with a conversation, and a conversation in which you have more power and you have more choice than you realize.
Yeah.
So let's nip this manipulation in the bud. Let's stop rewarding it as a society. We each need to take personal responsibility for ourselves. But just imagine what we would be like if everywhere the manipulator turned, they hit a dead end. I'm just saying.
It's going to work,
take
folks.
you
It
1,000
does
years,
work.
but it can happen. But it can happen.
We know for sure. We're so
I'm
glad
eternally hopeful.
we're so glad that you're trusting us with this, because this stuff, this will help you. we can help you. In fact, Robin, share a little bit about how we can help them if we meet them and talk about our workshop or something. That'll be
Well, our
helpful to
workshops
people
haven't been published yet, but we have one that we're going to be doing in
coming up.
September that's virtual, and another one in November.
Yep.
And those should be up in the next week. If you subscribe to our website, outwitinrealtime.com, you can find the podcast, the book, the audio book, the worksheets, and we will contact you about the workshops as well. But this is where you can really practice with other people, practice the techniques and the skills that will strengthen you and empower you and make you totally bulletproof.
Yeah, the workshop are great. We love the interpersonal stuff because we can really get into the intimacy and the individuality of you and your particular concern, which, here we could talk about it, but we can't really get into it with you as much as we do in the workshop. So we invite you and we hope to see you there. And this episode, in fact, you can find and see this again or hear this again if you like. But right now, the old clock on the wall is telling us we have to leave. So, Robin, you have any last words you want to suggest?
No, I don't.
All right, then. That's unusual for Robin to hear.
Well, I have an adult child who's blowing my phone up.
Oh, here it comes.
So
Okay.
sorry.
All right, we've got to do that. We all have things we have to deal with. Thank you so much for being with us this time, folks. We know that it's a difficult situation you're in, and we're here to help you with it, and we will always be here. Tune in again next time if you possibly can. And until then, I'm Dr. Dennis Becker, and for my colleague, Robin Golinski, thanks for being with us, and bye for now.